Students and parents in your sitting rooms. My name is Nanyonjo Maggie from Maryland High School. Now, from last week we started on report writing, and I realized that some of you either did not pay attention or you just did not understand, because you kept on complaining on how I should repeat what I had taught, how I should repeat exactly what I had taught. But I was thinking, I got one of my the students' work that have sent in their work to me through my email, and I got one from Atim Mercy Faith. I think she's from Somera High School. I looked at how almost all your work was very good, but it was just at random that I chose Faith Mercy's work. So here is maybe what some of us who were not attentive last week. Some of you told me your power had you had no power and you did not attend the lesson. Others did not just understand. I don't know, but let's pay attention this time and make sure that we really understand report writing. Report writing is never hard. It's easy, especially when you pay attention. So last time we looked at different types of reports, and amongst the reports that we looked at an incident report. And that is the question that I left last week. And if you look at the screen, if you can be shown on the screen, the report we have, that was the report that I expected you to write. She wrote, this was Atim Mercy Faith, she wrote the heading as I had asked. A report to the head teacher. Remember, we told you that you have to tell us where the report is going in your heading. So a report to the head teacher about the student who was beaten by the teacher of English and fainted. Of course, he brought in, but some people just talked about the incident, which was still fine. You could not have given us the details maybe in the heading. But at least you had to tell us where the report is going, where it happened, and then on which date. So if you look at Atim's work, she has really brought it out. So it is going to the head teacher, then the incident or the subject, because it's about the beating of a student by the teacher of English. And then the student fainted, and the date is there on 28th of April 2020. However, I expected your TH to be on the line. Next time as you write, make sure that the TH is not powered, but on the line. Many of you had issues with the introduction and conclusion. That's where you had challenges. So let's go through Atim's introduction. She says, usually on Monday, Tuesday and Thursday, Mr. Mate comes to class to teach English at 8 in the morning. And we are all enthusiastic for his lesson because of his interesting topics that normally talks to us about and makes English that students do not fail English. There's a lot of repetition there. Of course, I marked it and I sent the feedback. But even the punctuation marks, one paragraph, the whole of that cannot be one sentence. She ought to have broken in a few. But I'm trying what I picked there, the most important thing is for other students to see that the introduction that she has given was to give a background. That before the beating, before the incident happened, what had happened before, or what has taken place, or what normally takes place. You just have to be creative and think about the background, okay? And that is what we put in our introduction. If you look at Faith Mercy's work, that's what she has given us a background of which days, because she has given us Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. You're going to realize that in our schools, we have English 3 times in a week. And these are different days. So for her, she has come up with a Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. It could not be, by the way, the actual days that they have English on. But she is creative, which I expected every student to be, every candidate at this level, and the senior 3 student to be creative. And then come up with a background of what happened to the incident that we are going to talk about. So in her body, after the introduction, we shall look at while we were waiting for Mr. Mate on Thursday, he was late by 10 minutes. Despite his late arrival, of course, we expected there a punctuation mark, and then beginning with the a capital letter with despite. Despite his late arrival, a comma there, we were all still enthusiastic, but apparently he had not seemed to be, actually I think the statement is wrong there. But let us, for now, let us first forget about the language. Let us first look at what this person is trying to communicate, because if you look at the way we mark this, we first look at the content, then later we can look at the language. So this person is trying to tell us how the teacher was late. Of course, he is usually late, but this time was late 10 minutes. And so he's telling us, but all students were concentrated or had concentrated on the new topic they were about to learn that day. When Mr. Mate asked a question and he randomly picked a boy, unfortunately, he did not have the answer. Mr. Mate became angry and beat the student mercilessly on the head continuously. Even then, the boy fainted. Of course, but what we get to see there, that the teacher beat this boy mercilessly. It must have been a terrible beating that this teacher gave the boy who failed to answer. I know sometimes the teachers can get so mad, and then that can happen, okay? Let us look at the conclusion. Of course, they beat the boy mercilessly, and the boy ended up doing what? Fainting. Even after the boy had fainted, he still beat him. However, the class monitor called a team from the Red Cross and took him to the sick bay. I want to imagine that was after the beating. Why should a teacher keep on beating the child even after fainting? Let's look at the conclusion anyway. That is Faith's incident. The teacher beat the child because the child did not have the answer to the question that he had given. These things do not normally happen in our schools, but I expected a student to be creative and come up with a reason of why you think a teacher can begin beating a student in the class. Sometimes they happen, sometimes they don't happen. Of course, these days beating is not accepted in schools. But you have to be creative and come up with a reason why you think a student can be beaten that much to the extent of fainting. So here we have Mercy Faith's conclusion. She says, in conclusion, I expected a punctuation mark there, the boy Peter, Peter, was attended to by the school nurse and he was given medication and later taken to the hospital, and there's a lot of and there, that repetition please avoid, was attended to by the doctor, and later his parents were called, despite the fact that the parents tried to get an explanation from the teacher. Of course, there is the statement is vague. So please, but the most important thing is that we get to know that in the conclusion, the boy was taken to the school nurse, and he was given first aid by the Red Cross team from the school nurse, and then was taken to hospital. And then later the parents were called to come and see their child. So here we have the recommendation. Makes another paragraph and says, as a recommendation, teachers and non-teaching staff should know the dangers of beating students mercilessly and take caution of the way they react towards students if something is not done by the way they want it to be done. Okay, we have some issues with language there, but it's okay. Because the most important thing, this is Chomgisha Crispina. Chomgisha, I expected you to have signed, you did not sign. Because before you write your name, you should have signed, okay? You should have signed first. So as you look at that, I just picked a piece at random for us to see and to learn from her. What interested me most was that she first of all came up with the title as we had agreed. And all the aspects of the title were really put there. And there she would get her 2 marks. Then when you look at her organization, she came up with a proper introduction. I remember I've told you that we shall first look at the content before we go to the language. But of course you will not be spared. Language cannot spare. This is English language. You cannot be spared. Crispina, wherever I hope you're listening. You will not be spared. You will lose some marks on language because you have issues with sentence construction. But that can be worked on. The most important thing is now to write. It's until you write or you start to write that you can learn and make some mistakes, and then you learn from those mistakes and then make it better. I know, Crispina, from the feedback, you're not going to make these mistakes again, okay? So here we are. It gave us an introduction, and then after the introduction, he came up with a body. The body, he has narrated what really happened, how the incident was. By the way, the body can have as many paragraphs as you may want, depending. Okay? It can have about 2 or 3 paragraphs. So long as you're narrating the incident, because we want to know what really led to the teacher's beating of that student. So, of course, he has narrated to us what really happened, and so there was the body. Some of us went ahead to put this as a subtitle. It was not really necessary. You just had to write your paragraphs, and then we would know that that is the body. Then after he has after he had narrated everything in the body, he came up with a conclusion, which is very important. And I think there is a student, I believe you do remember yourself, I had to put, I think, she from Gayaza High, I had to tell you that please signal the conclusion. Let us know that you are now concluding. That's why you sometimes you say, in conclusion, you could say conclusively, you know, signal the examiner or the person reading your work that now you are concluding. And remember what we said last week, that while you're concluding, you could use your own opinion because you were there. You are among the witnesses. This incident report, remember we said, is written mostly by witnesses, people who have been at the scene where the incident has happened. So in your opinion, what do you say? Here, Crispin has told us that in conclusion, the boy was attended to by the nurse and so on. Or you could tell us conclusively, the boy had severely been beaten. However, the nurse, the school nurse, attended to him, or he was given the first aid, and then after a few minutes, an ambulance came in, and then he was taken to the hospital. Conclusively, what do you come up with while you are concluding? That is what we expect in the conclusion. Then we have what we call the recommendations. Now, I realize that most students or candidates had issues with recommendations. Either you did not understand what we meant by recommendations, you did not know how to go about recommendations, or you didn't know what it was meant by recommendations. But it was simple. Recommendations can put, in brackets, let me just make it easier for you to say, suggestions. After all this that you have written in the report, can you find or give suggestions? We expect you to suggest ideas that could change the situation. Here, when you look at Chomugisha's suggestion, he says, as a recommendation, teachers and non-teaching staff should know the dangers of beating students mercilessly. In other words, they should be cautioned. Either to stop their beating, or while they beat, they should know that they do it, you know, with love or in a parental way. But not to beat a child until the child faints. Maybe, Chomugisha, you should have also suggested on ways of other ways of punishing a child than beating. That could have been a suggestion, you know. We could have come, I really saw many students who came up with different recommendations that were really good, and I had to put measurable recommendations. You have given measurable recommendation, correct format and measurable. There are recommendations that are really measurable. I suggest that students do not annoy the teachers or do not maybe disturb the teachers during lessons. In recommendation, or I recommend that teachers try to control their anger, especially when they are dealing with these students who are very stubborn. I mean, those were measurable recommendations, and I think they were very good in this situation. So basically, all my students out there who did not understand recommendations, we are saying recommendations, just another word of suggestions. What do you suggest? Because as a person reporting, after you've given us all that has happened, in your mind, in your own way, what do you suggest can be used to make this situation better, or that can change the situation? So I expected you to have signed, and before you signed, I expected to have ended by reported by. With a comma, come here and sign, maybe with the sign with a date, and then put your name in capital in capital letters. Some of us just came and put our names in capital letters. Others just came and signed before, after the name. Others just said reported by and then added their signatures there. Again, no, each of these will stand independently because each of them carry marks. By the way, this is what many students do not think. Now, if you look at your Mugisha Crispina, you are missing there 2 marks. Reported by, then the signature. Those are marks you are missing, okay? And they are very important. As candidates, we should make sure that we do not work towards losing any mark. Every mark is very important to us. I hope at least I've helped those who did not attend the lesson last time or who missed out because of ABC. I'm very sorry that you had issues. There is my son from is it St. John's Mukono? He even had to call me this morning. Please repeat the lesson, repeat. I think I have done you good. I have only forgotten your name. Okay, so now let us continue with our report writing. That while we looked at an incident report, we left out a report that really needs investigation. Remember, we looked at the study, survey, those reports that really needed you to investigate. If you have been asked to investigate, how do you come up with such a report? So we have a question here. I just pray that you write. I'm just going to read it. There have been several attempts to ban the administration block in your school. There have been several attempts to ban the administration block in your school. The head teacher, of course there is a full stop, then after, the head teacher has appointed a committee of 5 people. The head teacher has appointed a committee of 5 people to investigate the problem. And compile the report in 2 weeks. Full stop. As the secretary to the committee, write a report in which you include the purpose of study, methods of collecting information, at least 4 findings, and give recommendations on the way forward. So that is another type of report that we're going to look at that really requires you to investigate. Now, my dear students, if you look at a question that requires you to take time writing this report, in most cases it will be a report that needs you to investigate. So this is the format that we are going to follow. To begin with, we are going to have the title, okay? Then we are going to have the introduction or terms of reference. Then we are going to have methods of collecting information or data. Then we shall have findings. Then we shall conclude. And then we shall have what we call recommendations. Then we shall, this time we shall compile and then sign. And then our name. So you're going to realize that now this is going to be a longer format compared to an incident report. This one is going to be very detailed because you're going to look at so many aspects. So when you look at the question that we have had, you're going to realize that we're going to have the heading, and our heading will read I want to imagine that other students out there are trying it out. A report to the head teacher. You could write to any other person in authority depending on how the question has been set. It doesn't have to be the head teacher all the time. On 4th May 2020. So basically that is our heading. We are saying a report to the head teacher on the attempted banning of the school administration on 4th May 2020. Okay? So let's go very fast to the introduction or terms of reference. Here we may accept the subtitles. So you may put introduction or terms of reference, okay? And here what are we going to say? We could give, like we said, you give a background, a simple background of what could have led to that incident. So here we are saying that in 2019, second term, there was an attempt. So which means this has not just started today. It started in 2019. There was an attempt. Okay, I'm going to summarize this, but I expect you to write in proper paragraphs. In 2019, second term, there was an attempt to ban the bursars and the deputy head teacher's office, where the disciplinary committee sits. In the first term of 2000, which means 2020, first term also has got an attempt. What does this show us? That this is not the first time in 2000 that this school administration has been, maybe the students have wanted to ban the school administration. It has been, there's some history. So it is that brief history that we want you to come up with. So we are saying the same incident occurred and the students together with the police rescued the situation. I think they came with water and then maybe stopped the fire. From this background, the head teacher has appointed 5 teachers and 5 students to find out the root cause of the problem and ask the undisciplined students who are involved and come up with recommendations on how to stop this vice. So the head teacher has chosen 5 teachers and then 5 students. But for us, we are going to write on the side of the students. We don't know what findings the teachers have. For us, we are going to write on the side of students. We are the 5 students. Remember, you as a student, you are among the 5 that have been chosen by the head teacher. So I want to come up with recommendations on how to stop the vice. The vice is the bad act. The committee had the following students. So we are going to mention the students. This is still in our introduction. The committee had the following students. We're going to mention them. We have Mokaya, Nicholas, senior 4, P. We had Nakaziwe, Ime, senior 3, Q. We had Kobugabe Melissa, senior 6, Arts. We had Mhaise Malcolm, senior 6, Science 2. We had Kafero Dalton, is from senior 4R. Okay? So you come up with a name so that we get to see who are those 5 students that were chosen to do what? To make the research or the investigation on how. And then from there you can come up, you can continue to tell us. I hope you've already taken in this. We shall say that the members were given 2 weeks in which to complete their work and a report. So of course, this was in the question, that members were given 2 weeks. So these 5 members are tasked for 2 weeks to go and investigate. Why do you think students are trying to ban the school administration, especially the bursar's office and the deputy head teacher's office? Why are they trying? And the attempt has happened 2 times. So this cannot be taken lightly. So we are going to look at the methods of collecting information. Which methods are we going to employ? Okay? Collecting information. Since we are writing in small letters, we shall underline our subtitles. So we are saying that the methods must be known. Of course, you must lay strategy. As the students who are going to investigate, lay a strategy. Which methods do you think we are going to use for investigating? If we just enter classes and we ask students, who are those people trying to ban the school administration? And why are they banning? Do you think any students will tell you any answers? No way. So you must intelligently come up with different methods of investigating or getting information. So here they are telling us the committee used interviews to gather information from students and security personnel at school. Questionnaires were also administered in the random streams in the school, which also brought in information. So here the 2 methods that were used were 1, interviews, okay? And then we also used what? Questionnaires. Now let me tell you how this one works. Interviews, you could decide, each one of you can decide to interview about 20 students from different classes. The 20 students don't have to come from the same class. Like I said earlier on, I think last time, that you could just decide to get any student from any class and you say, my dear, today I'm going to, lunch is on me, breakfast is on me. You go to the canteen, of course, most students, if someone is going to give you free breakfast and free lunch, I mean, many of you will be really happy. And of course, as you go to the canteen, after getting maybe your breakfast, you sit somewhere, you begin chatting. And within the chat, or amongst the things that you're going to chat about is the school administration banning. And then you're asking them, how do you think this happened, really? And I'm telling you, before you know it, a student is going to give you all the information you need. So this could be through interviews. It could be through questionnaires. Of course, since this is unofficial work that you're doing, you could ask the administrators to help you come up with questionnaires. And these questionnaires can be typed and then be distributed in different streams. And these students are going to come up with really very good information that is going to help you. But make sure that the methods that you're going to use are very clear, and so that they're clearly shown so that you can see that the information you got was really valid. Okay? So from there, after you've used the questionnaires and the interviews, we're going to look at the findings. What have these methods brought you? Have you found out anything, or you've really come out empty-handed? Now, the findings could be so many. You could decide to put them in you could organize them in different categories. Let's say you could put them in different paragraphs. So we are saying that the committee found out different causes of the above attempt, that is the banning of the school administration. And one of them was no response to students' plight. So here we have no response to students' plight by administrators. This is a cause. The students are so pissed. They are very annoyed because the teachers the head teacher, the deputies, and all the other administrators are not helping the learners. They're not helping the students. They report their cases, nothing is done. So you could go ahead and explain it and say, it was revealed that most students complained of various uncomforts like poor meals, theft in the dormitories, mistreatment from teachers, and dormitory wardens. But all these fell on deaf ears of administrators. This created a lot of anger among students, and so they wanted to send a serious signal. And you know, students are very funny. For them, they want to send a signal, which signal is very dangerous. They don't know it can also cause them harm. So this is just an explanation that because the school administration is not responding, but remember, my dear students, this has not happened. This is your own creativity. You sit and think, what do you think could have caused the students' banning of the school administration? You think, you sit and think. So it's not true that it has happened, but you are thinking. And then you give us an explanation. You don't just leave it at that. Then in B, we have confiscated funds. Okay? You find that many schools do not allow telephones or phones in schools. But still, students are really funny that they sneak phones into what? Into schools. So of course when teachers find you, wardens and all those other people in authority, they confiscate the phones. And where are they taken? So it said, it is at the school administration that the deputy head teacher has the office. In this office, the disciplinary committee sits and a store for all exhibits from culprits. So the funds which are illegally confiscated from students are kept here to be destroyed or sometimes returned to parents. The students have always wanted to destroy this place for fear that their funds could be instead taken and used by teachers. Can you imagine? So the students think that since their funds have been confiscated, the teachers are going to use them. They're lying to them that they will destroy them or they will give them back. So the students have always wanted to do what? To ban this place, the deputy teachers. That is why there is a store for confiscated items. And then we have corporal punishments. A place where corporal punishments are administered. Corporal punishments are administered. So students are tired of this place. This place, having a sitting of disciplinary committee, most punishments are given or administered here. This has created a block a block to be feared to many students and to look at as a dangerous place. Hence, they want to do what? Do away with. And then maybe discipline, archive, and so many others that you could want to do what? So here, these are your findings, or these are some of your findings. Then after you have the findings, what else will you come up with? We expect you to conclude, okay? We expect you to conclude this time, after all the findings have been put here. So how are you going to conclude? You'll come out here and show us, of course, like I said, you signal the conclusion, so that we know that now you are concluding. So you come, I said here, we shall accept you to write the subtitles. Organize them very well and underline them. So we are saying during the investigation, it was brought to notice that the problem was bigger and might grow into something more dangerous if the situation is not arrested. Okay? So we are saying that you conclude in your own opinion. And of course, after the conclusion, we shall expect you to come with the recommendation. Recommendations, remember, we talked about the suggestions. I don't have to write anything there because you know which suggestions you'll come up with. They could be as many as you may have them. Okay? And then there you'll come here. This time you're not going to say reported by, but you'll say compiled by. You're going to compile on behalf of others. And then you can come here and sign and then put your name in capital letters. So you have already completed this report and you are done with it. So please, I hope you have learned something from this. This is a different report from the one we had last time. And so make sure that in case any of these reports come, you are able to do what? To write. So let us have our question that we shall have for this week. I hope you've got you have your pen with you and book. So we are saying the question is, cheating of exams has become rampant in your school. Cheating of exams has become rampant in your school. The head teacher has chosen you among the 6 members. The head teacher has chosen you among the 6 members. The head teacher has chosen you among the 6 members to investigate the matter at hand. To investigate the matter at hand, full stop. As the secretary of the committee, comma, compile a report after a thorough investigation. Compile a report after a thorough investigation. I'll still send my email. If you want to send your work, please send it on this email. It is mnanyonjo1987@gmail.com. Thank you so much for attending the lesson. Thank you so much for watching BBS.